Alrighty, welcome back to In the Hype Seat. My name is Holly Meyer Lucas. I'm doing another solo episode today, and I feel like I don't do these enough because I feel like I have nothing to say. And then I'll be writing a blog and I'm like, you know what? I actually do have something to say. And so this is actually not necessarily a hot take, but it's one of the things that people ask me about constantly. And that is why I love Inman events so much and why I'm so involved with Inman events. So if you're not in the real estate space, you can just skip on past this because this won't really make sense to you. Inman is like the Bloomberg of real estate. It's a real estate news media company with the daily news that they report on, which is always fire. There's always a hot take on Inman's platform, but also in terms of the journalism, the true journalism, Inman is known for being the most fair and also the most true to separating church and state with sponsorships and editorial. And you can't buy your way into an Inman story. And that's been true forever. I know Brad Inman personally. One of my very first Hype Boss clients was Brad Inman. His right hand, Katie, and him hired us to help him with Live Long from an event marketing perspective. And he is one of the smartest humans that I know. And if you know Brad, you know why. He's brilliant. And so he built this platform, Inman, that he sold to private equity a few years ago. But he was still deeply involved in Inman. That's how I know him. And at Inman events, it's funny, I'm going down a rabbit hole about Brad because he just announced on his LinkedIn that he's retiring from the stage. And I'm putting air quotes around that because I feel like I don't believe it for a second. I feel like he's going to be back on stage. He's one of the best speakers that I know. And he's just a brilliant human. Anyway, Inman News in the real estate space is like the authority for news and for events. And I haven't missed an Inman event in like 10 years. Inman events are very important to me now. And they were 10 years ago, 11 years ago, 12 years ago, when I first started selling real estate. And so the thing, blah, 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 whatever, long-winded. But the thing that people always ask me is why I'm so involved with Inman. And I'm going to tell you. So I have attended Inman events, more Inman events than I can count. I have been an Inman ambassador. I've been a moderator. At the moment, I moderate things for Inman. I've spoken on dozens of sessions on personal branding and leadership, team structure, storytelling, content strategy, sports and entertainment, team building. I had a pretty lively debate with James Dwiggins about insurance reform. I moderated Multi-Kramer on AI with Kevin. What's his last name? It was one of the best sessions ever. I've spoken on all the things. And the reason I'm disclosing that and saying that, some of you might be rolling your eyes at that. That feels so self-aggrandizing, blah, 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 whatever. I'm passionate about a lot of things. And because I share openly on social media about a lot of things that I've learned, I have been identified as a speaker of many, a jacket of many trades, if you will. But long before I was given the mic and the stage at an Inman event, I was a ticketed attendee. And I paid gladly the thousands of dollars every year to attend Inman events. And I still do. The investment in attending an Inman event is significant. And before I continue, let me just say this. I know that sounds very self-aggrandizing. And if you're rolling your eyes, this content isn't for you, because I have a point to this. I was attending Inman events and I would attend Inman events long before I was on stage. And Inman events have been critical to my personal development. And I'm going to speak very specifically about why Inman specifically. So the return on my investment, so going back to the investment that I've made into attending these events, especially early on in my career, I would bring team members. I would bring, a lot of times before we had Slayer Circle in formal capacity, I would give my team the ability to win a ticket to go to Inman with me. So at the time it was Inman in Las Vegas and then in New York. And the events have just been critical to my professional development before I got involved with them on the speaking side. When I was building my career, selling real estate, and as a new team leader, the options for events to attend, to go and learn, were the coaching ecosystems, which are, the Tom Ferry events. And those are very well done, very well run, but they are very rah. They're very, it's a physical attendance at the Tom Ferry events, which I've been to those events, the learning the scripts and learning the sales stuff. And those events I feel like it seems like I'm taking shots at the Tom Ferry events, and I'm not. I am an introverted extrovert. I like to go and learn. I am a sponge. I am an intellectual. I love history. I love pop culture. I love intellectual things. I love smart people. And I'm saying that super respectfully and also very aware of how it's coming out. There's a time and a place when a rah type community building event is what hits the spot. Social Summit, Andrew's Social Summit always hits the spot for me when it comes to having an emotional tie to a community. And I think that that's what the in the early or mid 2000s when would I be 2015, 2014? What is that? Mid to early 2010s, whatever. The available like conferences and options for me to go and learn were like pretty limited. The other events that were available to me were Mega Camp with Keller Williams, which is, I'm sure you can imagine, is exactly how it sounds, very like rah-rah. And so Inman really became the hero for me for going and being able to learn, be a sponge. I would learn about team structure, team agreements, leadership, any area that I felt that I needed help in, marketing best practices. I was and am always a sponge. I would look for smart people who are running smart businesses, and those people just congregate at Inman events. And the thing that was always important to me when I first started was I was always looking for people that had better ideas than my own. And I think if you cut from this cloth, this will be relatable for you. I am always looking to align with and to be in the same rooms as people who have better ideas than my own. And when you're an Enneagram 7 creator, entrepreneur, visionary, dyslexic, ADHD brain like mine that has 1,000 ideas a minute, when you're in a room with people and you're networking and you're attending, especially an industry event, it is very easy to fall into this role of being the brain that is being picked, because we kind of allow that to happen. If I'm in a room with people that are there to learn from me, I'm going to pour into them. And there's like this give and take that happens at events where if you're in the wrong room, you will very, very quickly become the person that's holding court, and that is pouring into everyone around you. And on one hand, that's super valuable. And I personally, hello, like I built my business around mentoring people and sharing my knowledge. Like I don't have a gatekeeping bone in my body, but also it's deeply important to me to find myself in rooms where there are people that have better ideas than my own. So when I was looking for evidence that there were operators in real estate out there building businesses that operated differently, I remember saying this out loud in, I think, 2017, there have got to be real estate team leaders out there that do business differently than we're doing it here in Jupiter, Florida. My team was on a rocket ship to the moon, and I've told this story a lot. And I just remember I tried to hire a coach and they just weren't taking me seriously. My local mentorship, and this isn't a shot at anyone, or maybe it is, just wasn't getting it. I remember one of my team leaders, like sales team leaders at the brokerage where I was, tried really hard to talk me out of starting a team. And on one hand, he was right. Like I wasn't necessarily ready, but we were like already past that. I already had like 5 agents. I've never recruited an agent in my life. They like just flocked to me. And I'm saying that knowing exactly how it sounds. I don't recruit. And so the byproduct of that is that I created a monster early in my career with just doing things differently because I didn't really have any help. And that's, not a shot at anyone. I feel like I'm being really explaining myself here because I don't like to talk shit, and I don't like to place the responsibility of things on other people but myself. And I feel like when I phrase things a certain way based on how they were, it sounds like I'm not taking responsibility for how things were, but I didn't have help. And you don't have help in real estate. You don't have help. So you got to go and find help. And the place that I would turn to go and get help was Inman Events. Inman Events answered every question that I ever had. And I would return back to my team in Jupiter after going to an Inman event. I would come back with notebooks full, chock full of ideas. I would have ideas, and then I would have like execution, because I really would be diligent about separating those things. Now that I've Hallie, my longtime chief operating officer, I just get to play in the idea zone. Just kidding. I take notes on execution and implementation, but I would come back, I would have ideas and implementation and execution. And my brain, I would have ideas and things would come to me. I would get inspired sitting in Inman sessions and just listening to the experts. I tell the story all the time. Jenny Weimer, who is a big bad agent in Orlando, changed my life at a roundtable discussion at an Inman event in New York. Her chief of staff or COO, Emily, was at this roundtable, and they were talking about how they work together and how Emily is like the yin to Jenny's yang, and they're a teamridge is how they describe themselves. And I just remember sitting there thinking to myself, oh my God, they are doing it differently. These are two operators that are doing things differently than the millionaire real estate agent model that was being forced down my throat. I was with KW at the time, and then we went to EXP, which is like a lot of KW concepts are at EXP. And I just was on the prowl constantly for people that were doing it differently and doing it smartly. That's the thing, is when you're running a business, especially in Jupiter, Florida, where there are a lot of professional athletes that I was selling houses to, I had to liaise with their family offices, with their wealth advisors. I had to prove myself to their business managers that I was just some schmuck real estate agent and I had to prove to them that I knew what the heck I was doing. And aligning yourself with people that are innovative and forward thinking, marketing wise and operations wise at the same time, it was challenging. I remember saying out loud once on a flight to an Inman event, whether it was Vegas or New York, I remember literally saying out loud to one of the agents that I was bringing to the event, I want you to find me agents that don't have a house and a roof in their logo. So if you get someone's business card and they have a roof in their logo, throw it away. Don't even bring them to me, because I need people that want more out of their branding specifically, or their marketing, or whatever it was that I was on at the time. I digress. Anyway, I would go to these Inman events. I would come back. I would run my team like a freaking savage for the months between Inman events. Then I would go back and I would be back for more. Twice a year, baby. Vegas in the summer, and now it's San Diego, but Vegas in the summer and New York in January. There was a lot of change during that time. So this was coming out of the recession, and when the market started really heating up. I remember when we thought that the market was going to be shifting in 2018, 2019, and then COVID in 2019. It was New York right before COVID. Anyway, a lot of iconic moments at Inman. And one of the things that I've always respected deeply about Inman, and one of the reasons why I maintain my stranglehold on my time that I commit to going to Inman, is the editorial independence that is very difficult to find in our industry these days. I've seen it firsthand. Like I said, I know Brad Inman personally. I know what he's built, but I also know Locke personally. Their journalists are real journalists. And I'm saying that delicately because I'm not saying that anyone at any other publication is not a real journalist, but Inman's journalists are real journalists. And I know this. Why do I know this? Because I own a PR agency / media company, creative agency called Hype Boss. And let me tell you about what Hype Boss does. Hype Boss builds buzz and vibes and gets attention around things. And so you would think my homies at Inman would throw me a bone and write a story about the thing that I'm peddling. And I can tell you with 100% certainty that they will not. You cannot buy your way into a story. You cannot buy your way onto a stage with Inman. And that's something that I've always deeply, deeply respected. The Inman editorial team is always kept pretty far away from the shenanigans of people like me. I love those guys. But the content is what keeps people coming. I was just telling Tom, so the CEO of Inman, I was just telling him, I love Inman so much and I need it so badly in my life always, that I have 2 paid subscriptions because I have 2 different phones and it logs you out if you're logged into one. And so I have 2 different Inman accounts that I pay for my different phones. And I'm pretty sure I have probably a third that floats around that Holly probably uses. Inman Select is really, really valuable to me. And this is how valuable it is to me. I start my day with Inman in the morning and I log in and I do my thing. And then if I don't have access to it, so this is why I have 2 subscriptions, because if I don't have access to it on the phone that I currently have in the morning, my routine and the rest of my day will be messed up, because this happened recently. Housing Wire purchased Keeping Current Matters, and it was brought up on a call. James Harris brought it up, who, by the way, is a lunatic like me with keeping up with the news. And he brought it up on a call that Housing Wire just made that acquisition. And I luckily had just gotten off social media. I was on a scroll between calls and I luckily had seen it. But that is something that I don't like to have happen, when someone references something that's happened in the news and I don't know about it. That thing about myself, being in the know, keeping current matters, keeping up with the news and reading Inman every single day and just consuming news about the real estate industry has made me so much money. Because I find myself in conversations, and this is true for any industry, I am constantly consuming news and consuming podcasts, and that habit, which is a habit, by the way. I'm very dyslexic. I don't like reading. And so I really do have to choke this stuff down, but it interests me. And, but reading is a struggle. Okay. It is that important to me. And I know that it's going to make me that much money. So I do it every single day. Do it every single day. It is very rare that you will bring something up to me and I won't have heard of it, read it, if it's something that happened during that day. Inman helps me do that. And it's the container of the real estate stuff that I like to learn about, pop culture wise and global markets and financial markets. I have certain containers where I maintain my knowledge base. And sports, I like to know things about sports, particularly because my first Inman speaking engagement actually was about sports and entertainment, because I know a thing or two about selling homes to athletes, and they asked me to speak on Jordan Stewart actually hooked it up. I was an Inman ambassador at the time, and he put my name forward for a panel on sports and entertainment. But I like to keep up with sports because it a lot of times impacts my clients, and I also am a consumer of that in general. This is what's interesting about Inman and speaking on Inman stages. One of the other big questions that I get asked is, how did I get on stage and how do I stay on stage? Why do they keep asking me back? People don't ask that, but people ask me all the time how they can get a speaking opportunity at Inman, because that stage is earned. I mean, I mentioned that. It is one of the very, very few, not in just real estate, but in any news organization where you really have to earn your way. It is earned media. And so people ask all the time, like, how they can get on stage. And my first question back is always, well, what are you an expert in? Because the very first speaking opportunity that I had with Inman, I was asked to be on a panel about sports and entertainment and working with athletes and celebrities. And at the time, I was a little bit newer to real estate. I had a couple of years under my belt, but I had done 100 deals at least with professional athletes and baseball players. And so when they asked me to be on that panel, shout out Jordan Stewart for hooking that up. But when they asked me to be on that panel, it was like, well, yeah, no duh. Like, of course, I can talk about that in my sleep. And that's the value of going to an Inman event, is you have speakers that are true experts. And also the attendees that are in the room want to talk about what it is that you were presenting. Like, they're genuinely interested. People that go to Inman events are genuinely interested in what it is that's being discussed. And here's the example. So I remember getting off that panel. It was me, Jordan Stewart, Kofi, and someone else. And I remember for the rest of the conference, it was in New York, I had people coming up to me all over the place, wanting to pick my brain and wanting to have a conversation about working with in sports and entertainment stuff. And people were coming up to me from all over and wanting to pick my brain in the same way that I do when I'm attending Inman, or up until that point as an attendee. The speakers are accessible, and the speakers also, for the most part, the content team, so the programming team, does a really, really good job of making sure that the speakers are people that not only like to share, but don't necessarily love to hear themselves talk. Like, they like to share, but they don't need to share. And so it's a unique community. And I'm saying this because I've been sitting with why I love Inman events so much. And I've really, really been unpacking it. There's an Inman event coming up in San Diego that Hype Boss is involved in. And it's such a full circle moment for me to have this creative agency that I started because I was pivoting my career away from real estate. And this creative agency PR firm, one of my very first clients that hired us was Brad Inman, not for a real estate thing, but for his live long community. And now Hype Boss was just announced as the personal branding partner for Inman Connect San Diego, which is such a full circle moment for me. Anyway, I've been sitting with, I'll talk about that more in a second, but I've been sitting with why Inman events why I love them so much. I think really at its core, what the industry that we're in real estate is often marred and chastised for being, cutthroat and competitive. And it is. The community of people that go to Inman events are the type of people that are competitive and they are cutthroat and they don't have time to mess around. But they're also not necessarily looking for the rah-rah cheerleading. I mean, I said it earlier, like for community and for tears and for emo and for fun topics and for the time of your freaking life. I go to Andrew Jevons Social Summit. I love a rah-rah type event. I want to be around smart people who give a shit about this industry and who give a shit about their careers, and who, when you ask them a question, this is an Inman attendee or speaker interaction in a nutshell. Ready? Speaker gets off stage. It's a niche topic, and someone in the audience comes up to them or finds them, and they ask a question. And the speaker stops what they're doing, and the speaker genuinely listens to the question and then genuinely answers the question. And the attendee is genuinely wanting to know what the speaker's take is on XYZ ABC. That's an Inman event in a nutshell. Yeah, we have like some amazing speakers coming up for San Diego who are arguably the influencers in the real estate space. And those types will gladly take a picture with you and gladly do the social media thing with you. But at its core, and by the way, that's what Hype Boss has been hired to do for these Inman events. Hype Boss has literally been hired to make Inman more social media forward and to pour into the community in an area that I felt it's actually lacking. I realize I'm kind of contradicting myself here. That area is the social media presence and giving speakers the opportunity to have more engagement on social media and having the audience engage more on social media and personal branding. That I think if you're an attendee at an event, you should be given a container or a vendor to be able to sit with or visit with and polish your personal brand and polish how you consume information and then repackage it for your own audience and in your own marketing. And Hype Boss does that in our sleep. I digress. People on the stages have niche things that are not only worth sharing on the stages, but they're worth sharing in conversations that happen all over the place at that conference. And it's the thing that has made my life and career so much better. Truly. The conversations tend to be current and practical and they're occasionally uncomfortable. Not occasionally, they're a lot of times uncomfortable. I recently got into it. It's funny, I was in Nashville at the Inman on Tour event, and I was with a bunch of real estate influencer friends who, by the way, slay, and they're amazing. Katie Day and Chris Benjamin. I was with a bunch of them for, we had our SoFi Real Estate Advisory Council launch. And then the next day was Inman on Tour in Nashville. And I grabbed Locke to unpack what we were talking about in the, like outside of the green room, which is about how Inman has in the past not really leaned into taking advantage of the real estate influencer community as much. And I'm saying that delicately because I know there's been a reason for it. And I know that everything has a reason, but going forward, they want to hear from the people that they're following on social media. And so Inman is going to do more of that. But that conversation was uncomfortable. And it was a great conversation because people that attend an Inman event are people that can handle uncomfy conversations. Anyway, I could talk about this forever. That organization is near and dear to my heart and soul. It has made me a better real estate agent. Every good idea I've had, I feel like, is either one that I got from someone else at an Inman event, listening to a speaker, something that I was inspired by listening to something, or every good idea I have, I'm sharing it on an Inman stage, or I'm sharing it in the bathroom at an Inman event, or I'm having dinner with someone. And Inman San Diego is going to be special because Hype Boss is involved in it on the personal branding side. But on the real estate agent side, I have sat through sessions that have quite literally changed how I thought about marketing, for example. Something that I, early on in my career, like I always felt like the one thing that I actually really understood and like nailed was marketing. But I've gone to Inman events where I've come back and I've been like, well, we're going to change all of this stuff, because I just learned something at Inman, something that I feel like I knew and know in my bones, marketing. I would come back from Inman events and be like, nope, we're doing something differently now. Things around technology, operating procedures, how to do this, how to do that. I mean, it goes on and on. Those moments really, really add up. And for me, they've added up to a pretty freaking baller career in real estate. And I equate a lot of that to me just riding the coattails of Inman events. And when I say riding the coattails, it's literally going to an Inman event and then plopping myself on the coattails of the event and going, Jesus, take the wheel. I'm going to go where I go. I'm going to talk to who I talk to. And I'm going to be led by whatever I find is interesting in the moment. You always want to map out the agenda and make sure that you're attending sessions that are interesting to you. But what always ends up happening inevitably is the coattails of Inman just take you. And you should let it. So if you're going to Inman San Diego, first of all, find one of our community leaders. So one of the things that Hype Boss has helped with is building out this Inman community, and go and find a community leader. They are cut from the cloth that the Inman ambassadors were and are, which is cut from the cloth of you can sit with us. And they're here to help you. If you're new into the Inman ecosystem, or if you want a friend, go find an Inman community leader and they will gladly help you, or find me and I will be your friend. But my biggest advice is to go to all the things, go to the lobby and hang out. Go to every single session. Don't be tempted to check your email or be self-important. There's a period of time between probably 2019 and 2021 when I would feel so self-important because I was busy, what I thought was busy. And I would pull my laptop out and I would do, work between sessions. Don't do that. Really be present. The best conversations and the best things I've ever learned in my life have come by being in an Inman room or just around the brilliant people or the coffee station. I had one of the most important conversations in my career by the coffee station with Malty Kramer of Luxury Presence. It changed our entire website strategy. I literally said to him, I have a homegrown website that I built in Squarespace. It crushes everyone SEO wise, and I can't move it because I can't do an SEO migration. It'll break what I've spent years and years building. And I was right, by the way, except for Malty was also right in saying, let me have a try. Let Luxury Presence have a try. He said, we had this whole conversation about how he felt his team could do it and that they wouldn't break our SEO. And I don't want to go down a rabbit hole about Luxury Presence. You guys know I love Luxury Presence. But we ended up moving our website and got us out of the maintenance vortex that we were in with managing our website, because I thought that we had to manage it in-house to have it be as powerful as it was up until that point. But that whole interaction happened at the coffee station at an Inman event. Yeah. Anyway, that's that. I could go on and on. People ask me about it all the time. Like I said, Hype Boss is involved in San Diego, and I'm really, really excited about that. The new CEO, Tom, is awesome. If you're thinking about going to an Inman event, please, please, please find me and say hi. I promise you I'll be your friend, or find one of the community leaders and ask them to say hi. If you want to come to Inman San Diego and you want a discount code, find me on Instagram and DM me and say that you heard this podcast and I will give it to you. How about that? All right. Solo episode right at 30 minutes. Good for me. I was very heavy on the Inman. That was a very heavy Inman love fest. I promise it won't happen again. All right, toodles, guys.